Okay, so before I teach you guys about a method to creating a schedule for yourself, I just want to give some general advice. Maria, can you read the things in the left box?
Prioritize most important tasks, avoid multitasking, and break large tasks into smaller sections.
Yeah, so when we say prioritizing the most important tasks, a good way to think about this is what's due first, or what will take the longest. A lot of the time I use the what's due first method because if I have a math assignment that's due on Wednesday, but then I have an APUSH assignment that's due tonight at 11:59, even if the math one seems like it could be more important, I'm going to get the one that's due today out of the way because it keeps you more on track. Because if you start doing things out of order, you might be more tempted to leave things off, and then you have more late assignments, and it just creates, bad habits for working. So another thing, try and plan ahead. Make a study schedule so you can be more organized. This is really what this is all about. It keeps you organized. Routine, consistency can be good, but like we said, not one routine works for everybody. So maybe part of your routine is switching it up a little bit, and that's okay. And also avoid multitasking, not to overwork yourself. A lot of people might think, they can multitask. It's pretty hard, and especially if you're tired or you just generally don't want to do the work in the first place, it can be hard to focus and stay motivated when you're trying to do a bunch of things at once. So I'd say take it one task at a time, don't overwork yourself, and you can keep track of the things that you're actually getting done a lot better if you're only working on one thing at a time. And also, breaking large, time-consuming tasks into smaller tasks can be helpful. If you have a project, you can space it out over a few days. So you can say, I'm going to get this done today and that done tomorrow. Rather than just saying, I have this big thing that's due on this day and I need to get it all done. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I just need to do it. That's not very effective because you're not really setting any goals for yourself. You don't have anything to stay on track with, especially if it's already overdue. Right, Marina?
Yes, Mia. One assignment gone.
Yeah, I do this a lot if there's something mostly just for projects. I think usually daily assignments don't take that much time, but I definitely don't try to get one project done in 2 days. I honestly need several days to work on it. So you can setting those shorter goals are a lot more helpful for me, at least. And then, Emma, can you read the second box?
So work in 10 to 15 minute bursts. Use tools that work for you. Example planners, outline planners, notebooks, Google Docs, or a phone calendar.
Yeah. So I know we've talked about in past meetings, how long we should be studying for, how long people think they should be studying for. This can be helpful if, you might have a hard time concentrating or following the routine to get all your work done. Try to do in 10 to 15 minute bursts, especially if it's a more difficult task. Sometimes if you stare at something for too long, you lose focus anyway, and even if you think you're working on it, if you have it open in front of you, you might not even be getting it done. So just try to work in those 10 to 15 minute bursts, make that agreement with yourself, say, I agree with myself to work for these 10 to 15 minutes, and then after that I can take a little break and I can go back to working on it. But also, keep track of how long your breaks are, because I know, at least in my experience, I've taken breaks that, are a lot longer than the actual bursts of work time, and where an assignment should probably take maybe an hour to finish, suddenly it's been 3 hours since I started working on it, and,
See, with that, what I like to do, it's not on here, but I like to write down, let's say my planners and stuff, when I'm writing my homework assignments I have to do for the day, how long I think it's going to take. So let's say I have an APUSH assignment, and it's read this and take notes on it. I'll look at the stuff beforehand and look at it and be like, okay, I think this will take around 30 minutes to finish. So then I write that right next to it. So when I'm going through my planner, what I have to do, I set a timer, or I just think, okay, this should be around 30 minutes. Let's try to get that work done in that time. If you go over it, it's fine, but it helps you try to stay on a schedule, and it helps you think of how hard the work is.
Because usually with my assignments, I do a block schedule. So I would do like New two together and then take that break in between and then go back to
Yeah.
another assignment.
Mhm. Yeah, I've done that too. I think it's honestly really effective because it gives you a better idea, you know, it makes you more willing to do the work if you can get an idea of how long it's going to take rather than, oh, it's probably going to take a really long time. But you don't really know unless you think about it and break it down. That's also a really good strategy. And then obviously when it comes to planning and planning these things out, use tools that work for you. Not everybody uses the same thing to write down their assignments for the day. You know, I would highly recommend not just keeping it in your head, but really putting it down somewhere so that you can keep track of it easier. Because when it's just in your head, you know, you can forget things sometimes, or you might think that, you know, you have to get it done that day. When you write it down, you're really like, oh, well, you know, I guess I can, you know, skip out on this for today. I can prioritize other things. So some methods that you can use to keep track of your assignments, like every day planners. I have a physical planner personally. I got it from Target, and you know, it breaks down like every day and then also the subjects. I would highly recommend that one. It just helps me feel better about what I have to do. You know, you can use a calendar like on your phone even. If things are due that a certain day, you can put it on your phone. Or, you know, if you have another app. Or even like Google Docs. I think, Sydney, you use Google Docs, right? Yeah. What do you guys use? Can like I get some examples of what you guys use to like keep track of things?
I use the reminders app that my MacBook comes with.
Oh, that's good.
What about you?
I use you guys.
Oh, to like tell you what you have to do?
Yeah.
What about you guys over there? You and
I used to have a planner. I need to buy one again. But I had a planner, so I write like, you know, everything down and the minutes next to how much I think I do. And it's just very rewarding to just cross it off. Like, okay, I only have 2 more assignments left, and then 1, and then it's done.
Yeah, I honestly would really recommend the physical planner. But like I said, different things work for different people, so it's totally cool if you have something online too. I think that can be really effective, as long as you're keeping it somewhere. So we're gonna tell you guys about a method to breaking down your work hours versus your free time hours. Can you just like let them see it too? So this one is called the unscheduling method. So instead of outlining the times where you're going to be studying, the unscheduling method prioritizes, you know, listing the times where you're not going to be studying. Because if if you're listing first and thinking about only the times that you're going to be studying, it's going to seem like a day that's filled with a lot of work and only a little bit of free time. But if you schedule it out like this and really like think about what little times you're going to dedicate to studying, you know, you have a day that's more full of free time and with a little bit of studying mixed in between. So you're just creating a daily schedule, maybe hour by hour, maybe break it into 30-minute intervals if you want. You know, add in the times that, you know, maybe you're getting ready or you're eating or, you know, taking a shower, maybe practicing an instrument or working out, doing something fun, whatever, relaxing, being on your phone. So just like go hour by hour throughout your day. A lot of this is easier to do on the weekends. This is especially helpful for the weekends when you have the full day, and sometimes it can be a bit harder to choose when to study if you don't already have a schedule. So once you dedicate all the time that you know you want to have to yourself, then you can see what's actually a realistic time for you to study. You know, based on what you already have to do during the day, I know there's a lot of things that you want to do that aren't school related or that you have to do. They're just part of your daily routine. Once you lay those out, you can see, okay, well, I will probably actually have free time around this hour, and I'll probably have a little bit of actual time to study around this hour. Because sometimes when you don't really plan what hours you're going to study, things end up overlapping. Maybe you have somewhere to be, or it conflicts with like the time that you're going to eat dinner, and then after that, you'll feel less motivated to study. So this is a good way to do it. Like we said, you can see on this image, this is just an example from online. The person did their morning routine, so it's probably like waking up and getting ready for the day. And then like eating breakfast is at 8:30. You know, it's good to have things that are pretty consistent, but obviously sometimes things change. And then you see those little blank spots are, you know, likely spaces where they can decide what to do. And sometimes it can be studying, And then sometimes, it could be free time. And it doesn't have to be every single day. I think it's okay to skip one day, where you don't really do anything school related. You should give yourself a break. Yeah, so I think this is a good way to figure out when it's like a realistic time for you to study. I've been trying to apply this more to what I do because sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I'll just probably study in the afternoon or in the evening, but then all of a sudden it's like I'm eating dinner. I was like, oh no, I didn't expect to be eating dinner at this time. I was supposed to study. I didn't get to start. And then after I come back, I'm like, well, I don't want to study anymore. So this can be really helpful. Yeah, and then obviously, don't expect to be super productive every single day, every single week, because things don't always go according to plan. So just be realistic, and I think the unscheduling method is a great way of helping yourself be realistic. And if something goes wrong, it's okay. Maybe just that day you didn't do as well as you wanted to, or you didn't study for as long as you wanted to. It's all part of the process. You're still creating a schedule, and you're finding what works for you. Yeah. I think so. I just want to bring up time management. Everyone here, we can't do everything. We can only do things for a limited amount of time before we get tired. We only have a limited amount of energy per day, and that can even be decreased by the amount of activities we do, maybe for school or outside of school. So you have to keep in mind that the ideal schedule in your mind might not be what actually works for you in the long run. So once you space out your time, you might realize that what you thought would be your ideal study schedule, can't really be achieved without you burning yourself out or being super rushed all the time. And you can't push yourself past your limits for too long. And certain activities, maybe you can't actually spend that much time on it in one sitting, because then you're putting yourself through that mental and physical suffering, that turmoil, and it's just burns you out, makes you less motivated to study in the future. So I know a lot of people say this, but really you need to know your limits, and sometimes that does come from experience. Sometimes you feel like, wow, I feel like way too burned out doing this. I think I need to rethink how I study or how long I'm working on this certain topic. So yeah, that's all. I actually did get Wi-Fi just now, so